long time ago, a king called Grey White ruled the kingdom of Atlantis with his beautiful wife, Queen Rosewell.
They love each other a lot and live in the wonderful palace, richly decorated.
They were always with their friends and with the people who came to visit them, since they loved their king and queen a lot. Everything seemed to be perfect.
However, the royal couple was not happy because they didn't have any children.
There are babies in the homes of the poor peasants who can scarcely find food and shelter for them all. Why can't we, the rulers of this kingdom, have a child? Why can't we have a heir of our own? Who's going to rule the country after us?
Women in tiny hovels have their arms full of wonderful children. They have their children to love and care. Why can't we, my lord, the rulers of this kingdom, have a baby of our own? Why can't we have a child?
Queen Rose White spent her days and nights crying, while King Grey White became a bitter and cruel person. The king, that once had been the kindest and the fairest in the world, seemed to have disappeared.
Things went on like this for several years. Queen Rose White's face became pale and thin, and her beautiful eyes began to show the great sadness of her heart.
The royal couple offered prayers and solemn vows in all the holy places of the kingdom, but no child was born in the royal palace. The cruelty and tyranny of the king and the sadness of the queen hurt deeply the hearts of their faithful subjects.
As things were, life was very difficult in the kingdom of Atlantis, and the people became so sad and worried that the entire kingdom started to pray too. They were all praying for things to change.
In front of the royal palace there was a beautiful garden, where the king and the queen had once loved to walk when they were happier. Long before they had become so harsh and sad, they still loved being there, but things had changed so much that they seldom went there for a walk together.
However, one night, they decided to spend some time there, enjoying the fresh, soft evening air and the bright starlight. They were both in silence.
Suddenly, they were almost blinded by a dazzling light that appeared in front of them. The queen covered her face with her hands, and the king bowed his head upon his breast.
Do not fear to look at me.
King Grey White and Queen Rose White looked up. They saw a bright fairy standing in front of them.
King and Queen of Atlantis, you will have a child, a little girl, pretty than the sunlight. I have heard your prayers and the prayers and vows of your poor subjects too.
The wonderful news made Queen Rose White's beautiful eyes shine of happiness.
But it didn't last for long. When she noticed the fairy was looking seriously into the king's eyes, that light disappeared, and fear came in.
It had hurt the queen's heart to have her husband been so cruel to his subjects and to see their suffering. She had, in vain, tried to soften his heart and told him that she feared punishment would come upon him and his family because of his behavior and tyranny.
So she felt as if a sharp knife was slashing her heart when she heard the fairy's voice again.
My dear, you will have your own child, but as soon as the little princess is born, I will take her away from you and your wife for 20 years. I will hide within 7 beautiful cities which I built in the loveliest part of your kingdom. At the end of the 20 years, if your heart, King Grey White, is free of evil and rudeness, and you have repaired all your wrongdoing, you will receive your princess, your daughter, into your arms and your life.
20 years? That's a lot of time.
You must wait for 20 years and try to be gentle and fair to your people. If you try to go in before that time, you will die, and all your kingdom will be destroyed by fire and water.
But this is not fair. 20 years is a long time.
Swear to me now, in the presence of your queen, that you will never try to break through the walls around the 7 cities where your child will be growing up.
Looking desperately down to his wife and up to the fairy, the king was so unhappy that after a deep and long breath, he said in the voice that trembled as he solemnly lifted his right hands,
I swear.
The fairy disappeared as suddenly as it had come. The royal couple was left alone, sitting in the garden in the front of the palace.
Have I been dreaming?
No, my lord, it was not a dream.
Time passed, and the beautiful lady girl was born to the king and queen of Atlantis. They gave her the name of Blue Green, Princess Blue Green. There was great joy and happiness in the whole kingdom. The birth was celebrated with festivities, songs, and dances. People were very happy and grateful for having had their prayers heard.
When the little princess was only 3 years old, she disappeared from the royal palace. Only her parents knew she had been taken away by the fairy to the 7 cities, specially built for her.
Years went by. Every day, the king and the queen received reports from the fairy. They heard that the little princess was well, and that she was lovely and wise. Sometimes, there was joy in the palace, when the king laughed while hearing about his child's sayings, and the queen heard, with a tender smile, of the tiny blue slippers and the green parasol the fairy had given the princess. That day, Queen bought new slippers from any little girl in the city.
This happiness didn't last for long. In fact, time went on and sadness started to come around the royal family again. And soon it was as strong as it had been before. The king soon realized that only receiving reports of their daughter wasn't enough to make her parents happy. They wanted to see her and to have her in their arms.
As days, months, and years rolled by without being able to see the little princess, King Grey White became even angrier than before. He was growing old and soon he turned against his subjects again in cruelty and tyranny. Queen Rose White tried once more in vain to soften him, but everything she did and said seemed to be completely useless.
You must be reasonable. Don't forget your promise, my lord. This is happening because of our unfair deeds.
But the king seemed not to listen to her words and kept raging against the fairy and everything else.
The day of Blue Green's 18th birthday came.
Are you sure that the fairy didn't say 18 instead of 20 years?
No, my lord, she spoke 20 years.
Being that so, I will no longer be kept away from my daughter.
Oh no, would you dare to break the vow that you solemnly made to the fairy in my presence?
Yes, I will break that foolish vow. I will never done it if I wasn't so weak at the time. You were there. Don't you think so? How can you bear this?
Please be wise and patient, my king.
The queen loved her husband, and she had always relied on him. She had never thought that he would break his promise. Thinking about it made her feel desperate. Yes, it had been difficult, really painful, but she kept her faith in the fairy's promise. She couldn't bear it anymore and started crying.
No good will come of this, my lord. Be careful, dear king. We only have to wait more 2 years.
But the last 2 years will be the hardest ones of all.
And that very day he started to prepare his army and his soldiers to go to the 7 cities, ignoring the king's fears and warnings.
Please be wise and patient, my king. Don't betray your own words and vows.
A few days later, everything was ready, and the king left with his great army towards the 7 cities.
The king seemed to have completely lost his mind. It was a long and very dangerous journey. The army suffered a lot, due to the difficult conditions of the way. At last, they came near to the most beautiful part of the whole kingdom, where the fairy had taken the Princess Blue Green.
Storms raged, lightning flashed, terrible sounds came from the depths of the earth.
Let's go back to the royal palace before it's too late.
Do you think I will give up now?
While he was still speaking, a huge rock fell from its place near where he stood and rushed down the mountain. The earth shook violently. They were in front of the great walls that hide the Princess Blue Queen. The thought of her thrilled the heart of King Grey White.
Go! Go!
The poor soldiers got ready for a final charge and hurried for the walls that surrounded the 7 cities.
King Grey White struck his royal sword against the great wall. At that moment, the walls fell, and the earth under their feet rose. Great flames led up towards the sky and rushed over the land, destroying everything. The sea raged over the earth violently until it covered the whole kingdom of Atlantis.
The fairy's curse had been fulfilled. The king was dead, and his kingdom was well consumed by fire and swallowed by the sea.
When at last the waters became calm again, all that remained of the great rich kingdom of Atlantis was the group of 9 rocky islands, which today is called the Açores.
In the largest of these islands, São Miguel, there is still a special place called 7 Cities. Great mountains look like walls. In the crater valley, in the middle of the mountains, there is a lake of green and one of blue. The blue lake is where the beautiful Princess Blue Green left her little blue slippers, and the green lake is where she left her lovely green parasol.